Yeah, greetings. So this is my second demonstration of the stiffener tool in CATIA. So if you haven't seen the first one, I encourage you to go out and look at it. This one is where kind of the stiffener tool makes its money. So I'm going to do notice what I have here. So I've got I hide some of this stuff in the background, but I've got just imagine this as a plastic type of part. Or something that requires thin wall, and you want to add some support to it. So imagine I'm going to put a stiffener in. So I want to keep this one simple to begin with. So I want to create a sketch here to define my stiffener. And a lot of this I covered in my previous demonstration, so you can go back and look at some of the more advanced terminology here. But I'm going to create a line here that's going to serve as my stiffener. Stiffener works similar to a pad. I'm going to do this one from the side versus from the top. From the top stiffener and will replicate more of a pad than this one will, but this is from the side. So what's going to happen with the stiffener is it's going so of course think about where my sketch plane is. So it's going to project parallel to the sketch plane. So normally a pad would be perpendicular to a sketch plane, but this one is going to go parallel to my sketch plane within the current body. Okay, and then I'm going to select, it's going to have neutral fibers selected, and by default you're going to have merged in. So let me go to the stiffener tool. Typically you can find it on the sketch tools toolbar. It may be behind the solid combine tool, so go look behind the solid combine tool. This is going to be what I add stiffness to. I'm going to go with 1/8 of an inch thickness, neutral fibers selected by default, and that's what's happening. It's going both sides, and I'm doing from the side. And so from the side will currently merge with existing solid in the current body. If I try to do from the top, it's probably going to give me a warning or an error, and it did, because there's no solid to merge with. So it's merging with the current solid. So if you think of this as like a pad, merged ends is turned on by default. But a pad does normal to the sketch plane, which would be more what from the top does. So that is a very, very simple stiffener, and it gives you that result. Now, you can pattern this, of course, if I wanted to. Now, what I show my students quite a bit is, notice you've got this rounded here, and that's probably not going to work in a plastic. Well, there's a lot here that's not going to work with a plastic design, but just imagine you want that to be a rounded, what CATIA would be referred to as a tritangent. So I can certainly throw a tritangent on this to round off that top corner. It's an easier one to work with, so I'm going to blow through that one really quick. So now I've got I've got three faces here, but the faces come tangent to each other. So this is so you got three faces, and you got a topological edge here, meaning they're sharing a common edge, and those edges are tangent to each other. That was a tritangent, so I know they're tangent to each other. So I can now throw in a regular fillet if I wanted to, and just do a face select. It's going to, with tangent propagation turned on, it's going to propagate over these tangent edges and find the G0, what I refer to as G0 edges in the current body. Let me make this fillet quite a bit smaller, and that's going to smooth up what you have going around that area. Now, you can pattern this, so and of course I want to pattern these two together, so I want to select those two, pre-select them, do a rotational pattern, and I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to, oh, you know what, I forgot to select one of the fillets. I had a tritangent and a normal fillet. I forgot to select one of them. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do a pattern. Let's do a complete crown, and we'll just do 3. Now I've got a line here for my reference location, so yeah, I was able to pattern those 3. Simple. So I want to show you something slightly more advanced. So I'm going to take those 4 features actually, counting the pattern, So 3 features and a transformation feature. Take those out. I want to change my order of regeneration to the bottom of my part body here and bring in a hole. Okay, so I want to make it a little more interesting. So and then I've also got a reference plane. So I'm going to open up my reference plane geometric set. And I can't remember which one of these. No, yeah, that's it. Got lucky on the first shot. Let me hide that. So I've got a reference plane. Now that reference plane, and I'm going to demo how to create this for the sake of my students. Okay, so I've got a reference plane here. So that is going to be using the angle normal to plane sub option. So it's an angle to a reference plane, and it's going through a rotational axis. And that is why I created this line in advance, is because I knew I was going to make it go through that. Now I could probably make it go through an axis system or a variety of other different things as well. So, but if I'm looking at this, notice it's got a 60-degree angle. And that looks about like 60. So I'm going to erase this and just recreate it again, primarily for the sake of my students, because I'm doing this for video for them primarily. Make that my current working location. So I like to use geometric sets for non-solid features. In this case, a reference plane is a reference element, and I like to put them in their own geometric set. So I'm going to go to my reference plane tool, and I'm going to select angle normal to plane as the sub option. Then I've got a rotational axis, which is going to be there. And that's why I created that, by the way, is a line from the origin. So that's a point direction line, if you're curious. But that's, so I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to use this as my reference. So I'm just selecting whatever default reference plane that is. And I'm going to put in a 60-degree angle. Let's preview that and see where it's placing it. Oh, it's placing it here in the middle, which is fine. So typically, you can grab that little move icon and move it out so you can see it better. So there we go. So I got that out there. So I'm going to use that as my sketch plane for the sketch. It's going to end up being the stiffener. So let me change to be a good student here and change to my sketches geometric set. And I'm going to sketch here. It's going to be similar to as I sketched before. I require my students to, for the most of the time, have their sketches fully constrained. So in other words, they're going to be green. I'm not going to show that in this demonstration. Let them figure that out on their own, or you can figure that out on your own. But I want to leave it white for now. It does allow for me to be a little more creative with my design down the road if I want to tweak it around without worrying about constraints first. But so I got that created. I need to make sure I'm in my current working body. So right click, define a work location. Define in work object. And so I'm going to come over here, select the stiffener tool, select here. This is going to be from the side, so it's going to project parallel to my sketch plane. It's going to go up to solid geometry within the current body. I'm doing neutral fiber, merged ends is turned on by default, and I'm doing an 1/8 of an inch extrusion. Just like I did with the previous example, except now I'm on a different reference plane. And as before, I can throw in some fillets, such as tritangent, and throw in a regular face-to-face fillet. So it should propagate over if I've got tangent propagation turned on. That gives me some rounded stuff going on there. Now, let's pattern this. So notice I have a hole in the stiffener, so I want to take all those at the same time. So I want to take hole all the way down to my stiffener and pattern these together with a rotational pattern, or circular pattern as CATIA calls it. Got those 4 elements pre-selected. Reference location will be the same line. Complete crown 3 of those. And there we go. And that's nice. Now, of course, I pattern everything together. If my design came back and said, hey, we need 4 holes with 4 stiffeners, well, then I have to make some dimension changes, but it's still possible. Original angle may have to change to 45, increase to 4, just some stuff. But, and again, that's just an example of also creating a pattern of multiple features, 2 sketch space features, and then some dress-up features as well. So that is the stiffener tool. And just a reminder, and this is again primarily for my students, you got 2 options here, from the side, from the top. From the side is going to be an extrusion parallel to the sketch plane of your object. From the top is going to be normal to your sketch plane, which is very, very similar to a pad. So if you're thinking pad, you can almost do all of these from the tops with the pad tool, with neutral fiber immersed in selected with the thick option. So there's some caveats to that, so just be careful with that. But that's the stiffener tool in CATIA. And again, just imagine the scenario here. You got a thin wall part and you want to add some strength to it without increasing a lot of mass, so you can throw in stiffeners to help add. Essentially, it's stiffening those walls. So I hope that helps. Have a great day.